You're ready to be premature all over again.
Wow, that's impressive.
Quick
bro.
reset. Quick reset.
Yeah, that's right. Licking gin balls.
It's just going to be a vicious cycle.
Who knew the job was pro bono?
I was so high that I shit myself at some point.
Okay, get still here. Somebody, everybody mute. Goddamn, you're killing me.
My SEAL Team 6 went to SEAL Team 12.
There's nothing wrong with punching above your weight.
To play with you.
better. Well,
I don't know what's worse. You're a ginger or you've been vaccinated.
You sit around and drink and solve the world's problems, right?
Hey, let's go ahead and unwrap this present
So,
and let the debate begin.
Welcome back to another episode of A Spirited Debate. We are here once again to wow and astonish you with a new episode. Unfortunately, one of ours will not be here today, Big Mac. We don't, none of us believe in God, but our prayers go out to you that everything is going okay with your family, and we miss you, and we can't wait till you get back. Do what you have to do. We will be here upon your return. But with that being said, the rest of us are here, so let's go ahead and jump in. Gentlemen, how's everybody doing?
I'll tell you how I'm doing. I'll tell you how I'm doing.
How you doing?
I had to listen to two grown men talk about Love Island. That's
Yeah.
how I'm doing.
So now you're watching. Now you're watching.
Haas and I are gone, and you
Yep.
two fucking clucking
Right.
chickens
Right off the
start
rails.
talking about Love
Right off the
Island.
rails. Next thing you know, they're going to be talking about their
Oh,
stories.
God,
You know, what's
I
next?
was like, what am I listening to?
One life to
You
live.
loved it. You fucking
know,
loved it. Don't
Guiding
lie.
light.
You knew the names. I
Mhm.
mean,
What's up?
shit.
We're going to start talking novellas next.
I am in the middle of season 7, Love Island UK, that just
Oh.
finished, that just wrapped up. So I'm in
I
the
had
middle
to-
of that.
I had to put all sharp objects out of reach.
You
What's
just sat on
funny
the
is
couch eating bonbons and listening. I know you did.
I had to
Fucking
stop
lie.
working out, afraid I was going to hurt myself while listening to it
That's entertainment for you.
because
right
I
there,
was
ladies and
laughing
gentlemen.
so hard. Yeah.
Hopefully you enjoyed the episode. We
It's a
missed
good
you guys
episode.
being there, but we thought it was an ideal one since you guys weren't involved that he and I could expand upon and talk about.
Mhm.
And it was a success as far as I'm concerned. But that was then, this is now. So let's move
True.
on.
True.
Everybody's doing good. Glad y'all are here. Let's waste no
Oh.
time and let's jump into our drinks. So I see you already plugging away on yours, Grinch. What are you drinking today?
You know, you gave me the idea.
Yes, I do.
I
Genius.
went back to the Metallica's Blackened
Oh, you did.
whiskey. Yep, sure did.
Nice. Is this so? Are you just drinking it straight?
I am.
Nice.
Yeah, it's good. It is good. I enjoy it. It's smooth.
Very nice. I haven't had it yet. I wanted to get it. I thought about it, but yeah, I just didn't pull the trigger on it yet.
I mean, the funny thing was when you asked that question, you know, I was like, oh shit, I haven't even really been looking for it. And it just so happened Friday I was stopping by the ABC store. Just so happens.
Yeah,
in other words.
you know,
Um,
circumstance.
And I looked over and saw it, and I was like, well, there's my answer.
Exactly. I'm gonna take that one. How much does it cost there?
40.
Okay.
It's like 46, I think, for the 750.
Yeah, here I
750.
saw it. It was like $37.99. I was just curious, comparable price. Like, what,
Yeah, I think it's 46. It was 40 something. I know that much.
worth it?
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, it's good. Okay. Sonically,
That's right.
they play music in the Rick House.
And
with
like
the
I
barrels.
said, you know, after you drink it, you can play the guitar. You can there's all these skills that just infuse into the body.
So when you come down, I'll pull out a guitar and you can astonish me.
I'll astonish you. It might not
At
be
how
with
bad
playing
you
it.
are. Exactly. All right, Haas. So we got one black and now it's not bourbon, right? It's whiskey,
I think
right? They say whiskey.
I think it's whiskey.
Yeah, I think it's.
I gotta
whiskey.
look.
I think it's black
Yeah.
and whiskey. Okay, so you're just doing that straight up on the rocks.
Yep.
Easy peasy. All right, Haas. What about you? What are you doing, brother?
I'm drinking whatever you're drinking.
What?
Mhm.
Whatever I'm drinking.
Mhm.
Oh, then you're gonna love what I'm drinking. There it is, right there.
That is a
Shot.
beautiful bottle, though.
Shot for all you
I
who
will-
can't see it.
It's
Yep.
a blackened whiskey. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful bottle. I'll tell you what. That's
Metallica's
Aged
very
with
own.
the sound waves from Metallica's music to
There's-
quote, help it seep deeper into the barrel.
Yes. Apparently they put like subwoofers or some shit in the Rick House and they play music constantly and it's supposed to help.
And it's finished in black brandy casks.
There you go. So Haas is drinking whatever I'm drinking.
no, but I thought you should go first.
Oh, you want me to go first? Then I will go
Mhm.
first. Okay. Well, you could have just said that instead of confusing me.
I'm
Um,
sorry, buddy.
It's easy to
I thought
do.
I thought you'd pick up on that.
No, I'm drinking whatever you're drinking. Okay. So I also decided to go simple, and this was my ode to the topic today. I was doing, in honor of you, Haas, I was doing Angel's Envy, but it is just straight up, and I am just, I guess technically that's a bourbon, right? But I'm doing whiskey in a jar.
Very
Nice.
clever, very clever.
Yes, that's
That's
me.
quite
I'm a
clever.
clever bitch.
in a jarro.
In a jarro.
You ain't no
Yes.
basic bitch.
That's right. So I am just doing whiskey in a jar. Angel's Envy, obviously. Smooth, easy to drink. Thank you, Haas, for turning me on to that.
So
But,
good. God, I love that shit.
Yeah, that's what I am doing. I poured a Fat Thor 3 fingers in a jar, not Haas 3 fingers in a jar. So not quite as much to consume, but
In a
that's what I'm
jarro.
doing. Whiskey in a jarro. Exactly.
Good shit.
And then Haas, round us out. What are
Jealous.
you doing?
So I went back to gin this week. That wasn't my plan. I have managed to procure 3 bottles of Botanist gin, which is I'm very happy about because it's kind of hard to find around here. But I did that. But the wife and I had to go to Bratislava, Slovakia this week.
I saw the pictures.
For her
Beautiful.
to, it's an amazing city. Anybody, if you get a chance, go. But the reason we're there is because she had to go get some dental stuff done. As you guys know, we go to Bratislava for dental work. It's more affordable. It's good quality work.
And it occurs in a bathroom in a train station.
Right, and it does occur. And well, for me, it did. It occurred in the bathroom in a train station for a little, oral.
Yeah, then you got to
oral
the teeth.
reciprocation. Right. Yeah.
Should you really be doing oral
Payment-
reciprocation when
payment
dental
upon
work's
receipt.
involved?
Well, I mean, you do it. Yeah, I mean, you
do it
gotta make sure
first,
the work-
payment up front.
Yeah, you do it afterwards because you got to make sure it's quality work. I mean, how is she going to?
Numb,
How is she
how
going
the
to
fuck
test it?
would
How
you
is she,
know?
how is she going to bang it out and make sure it's quality dental work?
My face is numb. Perfect.
The wife was just walking by, going, still doing it. So here's what happened. We went to this restaurant across from the hotel that we've been to before that we really liked, and they had gin and tonics, but they had it with a gin I'd never heard of, and it's supposed to be quality. It's called Monkey 47, and we both had one, and then we both ended up having 4,
Like you do.
and procured a bottle of it while I was there. And then since we've been back, I've procured another 2 bottles in like a day.
So you got to make your way through all of that alcohol.
Last night, the wife had 3 gin and tonics. I had 1.5 gin and tonics. The only reason we didn't have more is because we ran out of tonic.
Not gin, but tonic.
That's right. We didn't run out of gin. We got plenty of gin now. So that's what I'm having. I'm having a gin and tonic with Monkey 47. Highly recommend this. If you're into the gins, Botanist is probably still just barely edging out as my favorite, but this is pretty daggone good.
Okay.
So
So
I've seen that one before.
I've never seen of it. I've never heard of it.
Where is it made?
I don't know. I'm gonna presume here because it's Schwarzenwald dry gin.
Okay. You said it's called 47
Monkey
Monkey
47.
Monkey 47. Yeah.
Oh, Monkey 47.
and I'm sorry, your drink is what? Just
Just gin and tonic with a lime, a little
And
bit
that's
with
it.
with a lime wedge. Yeah.
okay. I was so engrossed at the Bratislava story that I just
sorry.
blanked
My
on
bad.
what you were drinking. That's on me.
Yeah,
That's my
I'm
fault.
back on the gin tonics. Well, and the other thing, to be fair, I've got a couple of things lined up that I've been wanting to do, but they're more like cold weather things. It has been back in the 70s here, so it's like getting warm again. So I don't know. It's just something about when it's warm out. A nice cold gin and tonic just seems to make things better.
That and your fan, and you're good to go.
That's right, buddy. Oscillating fan for the win.
That's it. All right. Well, so we have Blackened on the rocks. We have gin and tonic for the win, and whiskey in a jarro. Gentlemen, I say cheers to you.
Cheers.
Cheers.
To another fantastic episode. I mean, it's no Love Island episode, but
Yeah.
on a quick side note, before we
Let's
move
threw
on,
up.
this
I almost
bottle,
spit my drink out.
this bottle is what the contestants on Love Island use when drinking. I was gifted this by Mac. It showed up in the mail.
You fucking sassy bitches. Jesus, good Lord Almighty.
Oh,
yeah, it
God.
just showed up in the
I-
mail, and I was like, okay.
I don't even know what to say. I don't even know what to
Your
say.
look says it all. There's nothing. What else needs to be said?
Yes.
And nothing else needs to be said. Let's move on down the tracks. So if nobody has figured it out, we'll go ahead and clue you in now. The topic of this week revolves around a very particular band. The band was started in 1981. They have been around since then, 1981 to the present. They have recorded 10 studio albums. They have a net worth just over 900 million. They have sold more than 100 million albums worldwide, 63 million of those here in the US. They've won 9 Grammys off of 23 nominations, and they are the only band on the planet that can claim they've played on all 7 continents. We are talking about none other than Metallica.
Yeah.
Clearly, that's why
The
Grinch is
only-
drinking Metallica's Black Whiskey, in case you didn't put the two together. Now you know. So real quick backstory. The topic came to be because Grinch threw it out there on September 10th. Metallica marked the 30th anniversary of their 1991 self-titled, what is considered the Black Album, with a special reissue and a compilation album of 53 artists covering every song on the Black Album. And so in honor of that, Grinch thought, hey, why don't we get together and talk about our 3 favorite Metallica songs? And that's what we are here to do. And just because Mac is here means nothing. I do have his 3 picks, so I'll throw them out as we go around and make sure we get everybody's recorded and locked in, and we know where everybody falls. But that's what we're talking about. In honor of Metallica's 30th anniversary of the reissue of the Black Album, we are talking about our favorite Metallica songs. I'm not pulling out the Wheel of Death. I said that before we started. I thought we'll be more casual since we don't have Mac. Make it easy on us. Just enjoy today. So if somebody would like to go first, please feel free.
I will say, I mean, you touched on a couple of things, but I mean, just learning a little bit about Metallica was interesting to include that, like, I think it's in the Guinness Book of Records for having been on all 7 continents, to include friggin' Antarctica, which is insane.
Like you're playing to scientist or something, but you're there playing.
Yeah. And it's also, there was a lot of little factoids I just didn't know. It was actually Lars who put the ad in the newspaper when he moved to the United States. He was going to pursue a tennis career like his father and grandfather. So he put an ad in the newspaper saying, hey, I'm drumming, like I do drums. I'd like to jam. And James Hetfield answered
Responded.
that. Yeah. And according to both of them, when they first met, there was like nothing magical. It was just kind of like, yeah, all right. And then Lars went back to Europe and did went and saw some concerts back in Europe, came back, reached back out to James, and that kind of got things rolling. Because the very first bassist was actually Ron McGovney.
Yeah, who didn't last long.
Yeah, it wasn't Cliff
year.
Burton. And
Right.
I mean, I don't know where you draw the line of saying this is definitively Cliff's mark from there forward. But at the end of the day, once they really got going in earnest, it was Cliff Burton that settled in. And then, I think Dave Mustaine was in the mix as well. For those,
we all know he went on to form Megadeth.
Yeah, any metal fan should know this story. But of course, Dave Mustaine was with them, and they basically packed up and left.
Drinking too much. He was kind of unpredictable, violent. Yeah, and so so anyway, that's how they got formed, and I didn't really know that. Another funny thing is they wanted their first album to be called Metal Up Your Ass, and because the label that was backing them basically wisely said, like, hey, stores aren't going to stock that. Right.
They just aren't. And to that, Cliff Burton remarked, kill them all, man, just kill them all. And which is where the title of that album came from. So some cool stuff, certainly. And I think several people, anybody that follows Metallica knows, Jason Newsted came into the mix after Cliff Burton passed in the bus accident, was with the band for a while, 15 years, I think. Mm-hmm. And then Robert Trujillo came in following him. So
very few lineup changes in that amount of time.
Yeah.
40
and I
years.
think, when Elton John came on that Howard Stern interview, he said, he said a couple of things that were impressive. One, Nothing Else Matters is one of the greatest songs ever written, according to Elton John. And he gave them immense credit for staying together as long as they had. Other bands like Rolling Stones, maybe a couple others, U2, that have stayed together that long.
Right, can make that claim.
And then, I guess my finished ramble will be, I think you could argue they're the greatest heavy metal band in the world. They were inducted into the Hall of Fame like almost as soon as they were eligible, if not the moment they were eligible, which is 25 years after your album.
Yeah, 2000, was it 2004?
Yeah, I'd have to look it back up. I'm sure it's on, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction.
I could be wrong.
Let's see.
I don't know why that stands out to me. I may be wrong.
I don't know. I won't drag anybody down while I'm looking. Oh, the other interesting thing. Yeah, their very first video was One.
Okay, now you're going to piss me off.
That was their first video.
Yeah, I'm aware of that.
That's a factoid. It's a factoid.
Yeah, I know, and it has to do with my pick, and now you've done pissed me off.
Well, I didn't know that.
Well, that's
all right,
your problem. No, it's not my problem. Yeah, let's try that.
Then I tell you what, that's a good segue. Why don't you start with one of your picks?
I don't have a choice now.
Yeah,
thanks.
I mean,
the Grinch that should not be.
I just kept painting you into a corner as you're backing up, like, don't say it. Don't you fucking say it.
The minute you said one, I'm like,
I meant two.
Yeah, two. All right, so I guess I will go first because see, I thought this whole thing Grinch was going to tell us a pick, and clearly he didn't do that, and so totally fucked me up. All right, so I will go first.
I thought for sure he'd pepper it an honorable mention and all that rambling, and he didn't do that either.
Drop the ball. All right, so I will go first. Thank you, Grinch, for teasing it for me. So one of my three picks is Metallica's One. The reason that one made it for me is precisely because of what you said. It was the first video to ever be aired by Metallica in the history of Metallica, and it aired on Headbangers Ball, January 28, 1989. Adam Curry was the host of Headbangers Ball at the time. It used to come on Saturday nights, like midnight, and I remember I had a TV in my room. Everybody would go to bed. I'd turn on TV, and I would watch Headbangers Ball, and I remember watching that. And of course, prior to that, you had 3 studio albums had already been dropped by Metallica. No video had been created, and they were actually didn't want to make videos. They clearly didn't think it was necessary, but they were talked into it by their label. Go ahead and make a video. MTV was the wave of the future. They did it. The video aired after midnight on Headbangers Ball on January 28th, 1989. The following Monday, and I don't know if you guys remember this, MTV had Dial MTV, and it was the predecessor to the TRL, Total Request Live. And so it was always the number one videos of the week people could request. And so the video aired after midnight on Saturday. On that Monday, it was the number one requested video. And from that point forward, they were like, we're going to make fucking videos because clearly we can reach more people, and our music makes an impact on as you know, Dr. Disrespect would say, on a whole nother fucking level. And so that was the first video, and that's why it makes it into my top 3. Metallica's One off the And Justice for All album. And yes, nice. This is my nostalgia. I like vinyl, and so I do have the album for those of you that can't see it. You know, the lovely thing about this, and it's a 2-album set, but you guys remember CDs, all the fucking lyrics. Yeah. And so you could sit
in case your you've got that in case your internet goes down, right? Or you've never heard the song before and don't know the lyrics.
And even when like cassettes came out, some of them would have that fold out.
The fold out that you would have to, that you could never figure out how to fold it back the right way.
Right. But it was interesting because prior to that, unless you saw them in concert, you never got to see them because they didn't release a video for the first 3 studio albums. So when one came out, it was trend setting for them because it was the first time you got to see a video by them. So that's why it makes it into my top 3. And mine are in no particular order. Just going to go ahead and say that. So that's me. Metallica's One. Let me go ahead and throw Max out there. Metallica One is also on his. He loves the video. That's what he said when he texted me today. It was like, that's definitely one of my top 3. It's an awesome video. It's one of those I can watch. Seeing it in concert, if you haven't seen Metallica in concert and they play that song, it's fucking phenomenal. The light show, the explosions. But yes, so Metallica's One. Next.
Yeah, and that's
you gonna ruin any more of my picks, Grinch? While you're at it?
No, I was gonna say they spliced in footage from what is it? Johnny get your gun. Johnny got his gun.
Yeah, World War One.
Yeah. Which is about a World War I soldier who steps on a landmine, loses his limbs and the ability to speak, and I think he was like trying to tap Morse code with his head.
Yep, the cinematographer actually worked on the Matrix trilogy.
Oh, very cool.
Little factoid, as you said. All right, let's move on. Who's going next?
I'm gonna protect myself
before he ruins one of your picks.
Yeah, I'm gonna protect myself and go ahead and interject here. I don't know about you guys, but Metallica is probably the first band that affected me as much as it did for a majority of my childhood into the teenage years and then into adulthood. And I don't Ride the Lightning and Master Puppets. Of course, I know some of those songs. Obviously, I've listened to them over the years, but the first album, And Justice for All, was the one that really kind of grabbed me by the scruff of my neck and just shook me to my core. Every track on that album, every song, because back then, it was tapes. And thank God you didn't have to fast forward through any of the songs because they all kicked ass. But fortunate for me, the very first song that really introduced me to thrash metal was the first song on the album, Blackened. And to this day, it remains one of my favorite pump up songs. When I need to get going, I don't give a fuck what's going on. When I need to kind of like get centered, get meditated, and then start kicking some ass, Blackened is one of my go-to jams. And yeah, that's why it's in my top 3.
Is that one of your workout mixes? Is that on your workout mix?
It is. Actually, I have Metallica Mondays. So when I get in the gym on Mondays, it's almost always Metallica. Well, okay, it's either Metallica, Megadeth. Sometimes it's Mudvayne. Just because of the M's. Yeah. No fucking Yanni. That's Friday nights, man. You got to relax on Friday nights.
Sorry.
Ease.
Put all the muscles at ease.
That's right, buddy. That's right.
Yeah.
Blackened's just one of those.
Yes.
Gets me going. Gets me pumped. Gets me psyched.
It's also worth mentioning. How many bands have mandatory Metallica, or how many radio stations have mandatory?
Mandatory Metallica. Yep.
It just speaks to how big they are, how influential they've been, and it's like the Metallica Nation. When you're at a concert, like you feel like you're connected with everybody there, and and that energy is just incredible.
And for those that don't know, Blackened was first performed live September 11th, 1988 in Budapest, Hungary. And has been, as of October 2019, has been performed live over 495 times.
Awesome.
Yes. Another quick factoid for you, Grinch. I was Googling in terms of where they fall in album sales. And as I spoke to at the beginning and how many they've sold in United States, in the top 50 selling artists in the United States only, they are 18th out of 50. So they are in the top 20 in terms of albums. Worldwide, out of the top 10, and of course, if you look, like the Beatles are always going to be number 1. Mm-hmm. Metallica is 9th. So that's not bad company to keep in either of those categories. You're 18th out of 50 or you're 9 out of 10. I
tell you, it's crazy. Obviously American culture has a lot of relevance all over the world, but I can't tell you how many times I see Metallica shirts over here. It's insane.
They eat that shit up in Europe.
Oh my God, dude. Well, it's crazy.
It's funny because I think it was September 10th. Metallica kind of did a spontaneous small venue concert in Los Angeles. I think it was.
Shit.
And, one of the I read it as well, but one of the things they talked about is the Black Album, the Metallica self-titled album, keeps selling, and all of them are like, who the fuck keeps buying the Black Album? And Lars joked that people are just playing it into the ground, and then they've got to buy new ones, and then they buy ones for their friends, and that it just keeps growing, Yeah, absolutely. Just incredible. It speaks to the breadth of their appeal, given that they're a thrash metal band. At least, that was their core of what they started as.
Right. In their formative years, they set the trend there with a number of other bands, but they were kind of the front runners of the thrash metal genre.
Yeah. Because, we all remember when the Black Album came out, the diehard fans were like, oh, you're going
sellouts. Yeah. And was that album? Was that the one where they actually did they cut their hair? Right,
No,
they all went from long hair.
That was Load.
Was
That was
it
the
the
next
one
album.
after? Was it Load? It was Load. Okay.
It's when they showed up on the album cover or in the artwork with haircut, and everybody's like, "What the fuck?" And I always remember in the I can't remember what the video that was, but they created a video, and Jason Newsted, they do an interview with him, and they talk about being called sellouts, and he's like, "And we sell out every place we go. So if you want to call me a sellout, fine." Yeah. So Grinch, we haven't heard your first pick. I mean, now you've been twice around the bubble. You hit us with the facts at the beginning.
Around the edges. No.
Okay, so give us your first pick.
So for me, the album that grabbed my attention was Master of Puppets. And, I remember getting it because I think it was freshman year I heard it in high school, because the Black Album came out, 91? Is that right? Yep. So that hooked me for sure, absolutely for sure. Kind of like you said, Haas. A little bit of a different album in the sense that it's got some, not, I guess, a dissimilar style from Ride the Lightning and Justice for All, but it was an evolution of sorts where they introduced like Orion. I know they've done Call of Cthulhu in previous album, but just its structure of like you have that instrumental that's like the second to last song, and then you just freaking hammer it home there at the end with Damage Incorporated. Just a fantastic album. But the song that struck me the most was Welcome Home Sanitarium. And I could just in high school just like lay on the carpet, turn the lights off.
And this was in class, ladies and gentlemen, not at home. No.
Yeah, it was weird. Everybody looked at me, but I was like,
take your socks off.
Yeah, you just don't get it.
I don't know, just an awesome song.
Absolutely.
I've already listened to it several times today, just kind of cycling back through some stuff, but it just, I don't know, I just connected with it, I guess. But that's my first pick.
Yeah, but we talk about nostalgia, right? We just did that episode, so it's like, when you listen to that takes you back to that time where you're laying on the floor, lights off, listening to it. You just can't help it, no matter what, no matter how many times you listen to it.
That bonus room that was off my bedroom,
off the bedroom. Yep.
That's where I'd be like just laying there, like, this is fantastic. And it was just, I don't know, it was just relaxing.
The one redeeming quality of that house in Atlanta.
Yeah.
All right.
Basement.
So we have technically 3 off of And Justice for All. We have 1 off Master of Puppets as our first roll around. So let's go ahead and jump into pick number 2.
I'll just say real quick too, that was also Cliff Burton's last album.
It absolutely was, unfortunately. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to echo what you just said, Grinch. The second of my 3 picks comes off the Master of Puppets album. It was released in March of 1986. It was the 3rd album. It was the last album with Cliff before Jason comes in for And Justice for All. I had just moved in the summer of 86. I had just moved from Orlando to Atlanta. And it was one of those, I consider myself a fairly outgoing individual. So when we moved, it was like immediately go out and like, let's meet the kids in the neighborhood. And right across the street from where I lived. So I don't know if you all remember, my house sat right at the top of like a street
entrance or whatever.
And there was a house diagonal on the opposite corner, and the family that lived there had 2 kids, Keith and Tim Gridley, and Keith was in 8th grade, Tim was in 6th, and I was in 5th at the time. And so of course it's out and meeting people, and I immediately struck up a friendship with them. And of course they moved back to Florida a few years later, but they were kind of the quintessential headbangers, jean jackets, bands markered on the back, skulls and like everything all over them, long hair. And so they actually were the first ones to introduce me to the Master of Puppets album. So, I had heard Metallica, but I hadn't heard that album yet. And so Tim, the younger brother, introduced me to it. And so listening to it, sitting in his room, and he puts on Master of Puppets, the title track. And I was immediately like, Grinch like you, I was like, I'm hooked. I want this album. And obviously, as I pointed out, my nostalgia of owning the vinyl.
And the cover art for all these albums is
phenomenal.
So badass.
Yes. And I was the same way. I was like, I could just listen to it over and over again. All the songs like Welcome Home Sanitarium. Absolutely. But in listening to it, I was just like, It's a phenomenal album. Even the instrumental, like when you get to Orion, and it's one of those, like I could put it on in my room and just lay in bed and listen to it. It's like they made an instrumental sound really cool, and you could just listen to it over and over again. And so that is my second pick. It was that album, Metallica's Master of Puppets, the title track off that Master of Puppets. You know, it's that hard, edgy, you know, they're thrashing it, and then it slows down into the guitar, and it gives you that very slow, and then it builds back up, almost orchestral, and then it builds back up into it. And it's just like, it was like, obviously it's art, but I mean, the way it just grabbed you, it was like, holy shit. You know, the same thing they did with One. It was like you go through One, then it drops off, and then when it comes back in with a double bass pedal from Lars and the real fast guitar, and it's like Darkness imprisoning me, like that was the hook in One. It was like when you got to that point, it was like an entirely different song. And I was like, fuck, man, this whole thing is great. Master of Puppets was the exact same way. So that's my second pick, Metallica, Master of Puppets, off their 86 album, Master of Puppets.
And since you said it, I'll just go ahead and tell you that was my second pick as well. I mean, when they get to the section, Master, pleasant dreams that I've been at. I mean, it's just a badass song.
Like I just want to kick out windows and punch people.
Finish, and like you said, it offers different ranges within the song. And there's one other song we haven't mentioned that does that as well, but I don't want to say it in case it's somebody's pick.
Yes.
If nobody says it, I'll say it. But
yeah, absolutely. It can be one of your honorable mentions. And it's interesting so far, the first 6 picks, the four of us around the first time, and now you and I this time, and we've really only covered 2 albums. I mean, Dave put out 10, but we're 6 picks around, and we've only covered 2 albums. I mean, I didn't actually Google if anybody did how many songs in terms of studio albums, because I know for our listeners, we said they had to be original songs. Like one of the things we didn't want was like The Garage Incorporated. Love that song. Whiskey in a Jarro, but it was like we didn't want them to be cover songs. We wanted it to be original songs. I don't know how many original songs they've actually put out. I mean, it's not something I Googled to go, how they've done.
It's got to be in the hundreds, right?
Yeah,
like 100 and something, I would think.
Yeah,
just based on the math. And they've all, you know, it's also worth mentioning too. Their songs aren't short.
No, you know, no. One is like 7 minutes and 53 seconds.
There's quite a few that run in the 7, 8, 9 minute range. I mean, you know, in Grinch was kind of just earlier, like with Orion. I mean, it's an all instrumental song that I think goes 7 or 8 minutes, and it's 7, 8 minutes of badassery.
When it gets to that part where it's like, anyway,
it's 8 minutes and 27 seconds. Orion.
Yeah, and you know, it's funny. One of the things I thought about, one funny story, and then a comment related to the album structure, which is when Until It Sleeps came out, which was on what? I think that's on, was that Reload? I think that was on
Reload. Think so. Was it Reload or Load or Reload? Maybe it was Reload.
I think it's on Reload.
Yeah.
But, you know, it was hitting the radio, and I can remember driving in my truck and hearing somebody calling, going, "Hey, will you play that long Metallica song?" And he was just like, "Yeah, man, I got you." And he played off like something off the Black Album, and he was just like, "Long Metallica song."
It's like, what the fuck?
It's like, you moron, you know. But
and it was the Load album, by the way.
Okay. But listening to some of these albums again, start to finish, I mean, they're just works of art. They really are. Like, and the flow, like, it reminded me of the days when you knew the next song coming. You know, like you played the tape so many times that you knew exactly what it was going to transition to. And that reminded me of when you said Tool, when somebody talked to Tool about, you know, hey, when are you going to put your music out so we can actually start downloading it? And and they said, well, we want you to listen to the music the way we constructed it on the album, you know. And you told me Maynard's remark, or the remark to that was, you mean like in your concerts?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Oh.
Good point. Yeah, because you don't play that in any particular order.
Yeah, but certainly listening to, in particular, Master of Puppets and Justice for All, Ride the Lightning, like they're a great package. You just hit play and enjoy. Even the Black Album as well.
I can remember I was living in Orlando, and I don't know how old the kid was, but we were talking about Metallica, and he was like, "Yeah, my first album was Reload," and I'm like, "What?" His name was Spencer. I remember that. He was a dishwasher. And I was like, that was your first kind of foray into Metallica, was Reload. Not that it's a bad album, but it's like, you realize there are other albums out there you should probably go listen to. And at that time, obviously, you couldn't stream music. You couldn't just go like Napster. I guess Napster had already come along, so you could do it if you had access to a computer. But
well, and it's worth mentioning, Metallica brought down Napster.
Yep.
They
single-handedly became one of the most hated groups.
Yeah. I mean, we wouldn't have Spotify, we wouldn't have Apple Music. None of these things would exist in their current form. And apparently Napster is like raising from the ashes, but it basically went bankrupt.
Right.
Because ultimately, they were like, you're stealing our shit for free.
Yeah. And we work hard.
If I remember right, the song that led to it was their contribution to Mission Impossible 2.
I Disappear.
I Disappear, because I think somebody found it and leaked it out, and then it got on Napster before they could like release the single.
And then boom.
And
if you knew Napster, man, that shit just took off.
Yeah.
Because you could get anything.
Yeah, peer-to-peer sharing.
Yes. Haas, I apologize. We kind of ran over your second pick.
No, you're fine. I do this just us dudes sitting around hanging out, talking, shooting the shit, reminiscing. It's all good.
Well, then let me go ahead and throw in another album. We'll go ahead and toss Mac's next pick out. And so his was the first single dropped off the Black Album, which of course is why we're here today, because of the reissue of the Black Album. But the first single off that was Enter Sandman, and that was his second pick. He's loved that song, the guitar in that, and of course if you saw the video, it was a little creepy.
Well,
And
not just that, I don't know if Hatfield's ever had better vocals than he's had in
off that album
from a ballad standpoint. I mean, the screaming and yelling
else matters, or Enter Sandman.
Enter Sandman.
Okay.
The way he the some of the soft, like, it just, his vocals feel softer and fuller.
Right.
And that, like, it was just a different vocal version than I think we'd ever really had from Hatfield.
And I want to say, if I'm not mistaken,
I can't think of another. I'm trying to think if there was another ballad before that really, I don't know, that kind of grabbed me the way Enter Sandman did.
Yeah, I mean, Load and Reload are when they got more ballady.
Right.
Yeah, but that was what, 5 and 6 years after, 6 and 7 years.
Yeah, because that's when, like, the song that comes to mind is Mama Said, which is very slow, kind of clean, not like clean guitar. But I mean, I think, I don't know all the details. I mean, I know over the arc of his singing, he initially was more the thrashy kind of yelling into the mic, because that was their style.
Right.
And then as he professionalized, he, began thinking of his voice as more like something that needs to be taken care of and developed.
And almost another instrument in the band.
Yeah, right. Just like a drum, just like Lars changed kind of his style of drumming over the years and kind of retooled his kit as he spoke with like the drummer from Joe Satriani, and that kind of thing. I think he evolved as well, and started figuring out where his range was and what he could do.
Yeah, that was also the first album, and I think it was one of the reasons there was kind of a monumental shift in their approach, and maybe the lyrics, and that was also the first album they did with Bob Rock as their producer, who they would go on to do a number of albums with. But that, I think, had something to do with why there was a shift in their approach to the music. Yeah,
and they definitely give a lot of credit to Bob Rock for how he pushed them to write better lyrics. Not that they were bad, but he was like, you're kind of taking the easy stuff, to make, like, this song's angry, so you're just saying angry shit. He's like, you're smarter than that, and you can do better. And so, like, they gave some examples of lines that evolved, but it is, I mean, incredible that what that guy was able to do with the band, just to keep pushing them. And if you've seen the documentary Some Kind of Monster, you've seen that it sometimes was a contentious relationship, just pushing them to get them, because I think James and Lars didn't want to have to change. Yeah. Like, this is the formula that works. And it's like, yeah, but the formula can be better. So, yeah. And I forget the name of the therapist or doctor that they worked with, but they've also said he's probably a big reason they're still together. And through that, I think some introspection came on kind of why they drove Jason Newsted away, how they treated him with manipulating the bass that you can hear in some of the songs. Like, I think it was after Injustice for All, or no, I forget which album it was in particular. And Hetfield and Lars said, we were doing tours and we were coming back and mixing albums, and he was like, our ears were like shot. He's like, there's probably a chance we just kept cranking up the treble and losing bass because that's what we could friggin' hear.
Right. That's the level that you can hear. Exactly.
Like you're blowing out your eardrums, because back in the day, you just built a wall of sound. Who was it? Like, it's the Who. Isn't it the Who lead singer that like notoriously had this shit so loud that like his hearing started suffering?
And again, that's one of those things where technology eventually catches up, and it's, you learn. Yeah, a great album. But Haas, let's go ahead and jump into your second of three picks. What did you bring here?
So it's one of those songs that, I mean, I guess like really any Metallica song, as soon as you hear like the first several chords or the first whatever, you immediately know what it is. But it's another one of those songs that every time I hear it, when I need to pick me up, or every time, even if I don't know I need to pick me up when I hear it, it picks me the fuck up and sends me along my merry little way. It's a little, give me fuel, give me fire, give me that which I desire, and I just start, right. And it just kicks in, and I start going. Like, I'm stoked. I'm ready. Fuel, off of their Reload album.
Yep. It's Reload.
I always want to say Load. What the opening track was.
I always want to say Load, but it's the Reload album. I always get it mixed up too. But yeah, that's one of my top three, and the reason why is always it gets me pumped, it gets me going, it gets me psyched, it gets me ready. I love the vocals, obviously. The whole song obviously rocks. Some of the chord changes I also dig. The way they throw that in there. So yeah,
you could listen to like Benzene from Rammstein, followed by Fuel, followed by like 1,000 horsepower by Godsmack, and you just have like, you just be ready to drive a car like through a wall.
You would know that I do have a Rammstein day at the gym, which is kind of weird because I'll be like singing in German and people will be looking at me weird.
I feel like if we throw in a Ministry's Jesus Built Your Hot Rod, we've got
there you go.
We're
nice. Making our playlist now, all right?
Yeah,
I like it. I like it.
It's interesting, your second pick. Like all of my picks, as we cycle back to me, occur on earlier albums. I'm not sure why that is. I think we got to a point, like, I appreciated their music, but I think there was something. I think this is probably the same thing for me when we go back to season 1 of A Spirited Debate, when we talked about music or concerts. Like, we talked about our top albums, we talked about our top concerts. Like, there was a very specific time for me that those fell. This was a lot of the same thing. There is a very specific time. In terms of my formative years, the 3 songs I chose all fall in the 80s, on albums in the 80s. And I think it was because that was my first experience with them.
I think I'm a little different than you and Grinch. I definitely feel like I peaked with Metallica a little bit later. In fact, I think I peaked with this genre of music a little bit later than you guys. I like Ride the Lightning as an album. I think Master of Puppets is probably one of the most complete, best albums, top down, side to side, probably ever. It's a mastery piece of work. But it really for me, it was Injustice for All kind of forward that kind of grabbed me. Even though I like a lot of the earlier stuff. So I think that's probably the difference, at least for me from you, I think maybe, is I just peaked. Okay. I peaked in this genre a little bit different, right. A different time frame than you did.
And I will say, we're probably kind of teasing out the why of that, Thor, which was I had the same feeling for a little bit as I was nailing down my picks, which was, am I being disrespectful to the formative albums or the albums that hooked me in? Because if let's just say they all got made at the same time, they were all laid out on a table, would I have picked the same way versus knowing that album, had such an effect on me?
Ooh, that's a good approach when you think about it.
There's obviously no way we can do that,
No, but
if it were like, you have no idea, we're just going to play songs, you tell me the ones that grab you, you might have a slightly different approach.
I think I would. And that's why I said it's interesting that you pose it that way, because if I had never experienced it and they were all laid out in front of me, and then somebody said, just go and listen to them and tell me, because they didn't affect me at a very specific time and place in my life, I probably would have chosen differently, I would think, just in listening to the songs, even just listening to them now. If I had to factor in that criteria. Somebody that was, born 5 years ago, and then, 20 years from now, they're doing this very thing. Yeah, it would be different because my approach to the music would be different. But that's interesting.
And I'll say this one, it was down to two. I'll go ahead and tell you my third one, kind of with that segue, which was All Nightmare Long, which I think is off Death Magnetic, 2008, I believe it was. But that song, I don't know, like it just gets cranking. The riffs are so fast, throughout the song. Hunt you down without mercy, hunt you down all nightmare long. I think too, I thought the concept of saying all nightmare long was just so fucking cool,
as opposed to all night long.
Yeah. I just thought it was a badass kind of little riff on the concept, and the song just punches the whole time, and it's one of the ones I'll go to like when I'm ready to get amped up, especially with Metallica.
The Haas has blackened. That's what you have all nightmare long.
Yep.
And that's okay. I mean, that works. Again, and that's not saying anything. Like, I'll be honest, of the 10 albums, for me, the least favorite is Saint Anger. I don't dislike the album, but if I had to categorize it, it would be 10th out of those 10 albums for me. But I still like the music's there.
Weird too, right? Because you didn't have Newstead there. Trujillo wasn't quite on board.
And when you listen to the album, it was drastically different than what they had done before in terms of their approach to the music. And like you said, at the time they were going through issues. They had a therapist in. Hetfield was going through sobriety. I mean, they were really trying to change their sound at the time when Saint Anger came out.
Yeah, and previous to that, basically Hetfield and Ulrich did all the writing and the music concepts.
Right.
And what's his name? And of course, they're filming Some Kind of Monster at the time. So they got cameras in their faces. Dave Mustaine makes an appearance to tell them, how it's affected him. Lars is like yelling at James. James slips. He'd been, like you said, with the sobriety, he went back into rehab for a period of time. Like
a year. Like they put that documentary on hiatus for almost a year.
Yeah. So, I mean, as I read and I agree with, like, it's uncomfortable to watch it because you can just feel the tension in the room. And meanwhile, Kirk Hammett's like, "Can we just jam, guys?"
Right?
Because he's such a cool soul, like
he's definitely not as intense as they are.
Yeah. But that was the turning point of how they started to collaborate on songs.
Right. It was more, "Hey, Kirk, what do you want to play?"
Yeah, right. Because even. Or like, what riffs do you have? Let's see what we can do with that, because prior to that, like even Load and Reload, they did Load, but they had all the songs. They had like 20 something songs or more. And then they went on tour because they just needed a damn break. Then they dropped Reload, so they were kind of in the grind, but there are some, like, I know they're going on their 11th album, which we're waiting to hear when it'll come out. But, they would go like 6 years in between albums, which is kind of weird,
by today's standards.
Yeah, because you almost,
but they could get away with it too, right?
Yeah.
I mean, when you have a net worth of 900 million plus, I mean, you're not forced to the road to tour and
I forget which tour it was. Maybe that they made $400 million off the tour. It's like in the top 10 of all time of like tour income. I forget which one it was though.
Well, the Hardwired tour that occurred, it's like for the longest time it felt like it was just going and going. And look, these guys they're no spring chickens. You know what I'm saying? And so, and that's the other thing, and I should probably get to my third pick, is the music that they play isn't easy for anybody when you're 25. When you're 60, they're still playing the same fucking songs, and like going and seeing them in concert and they're playing a 2-hour set. I'm like, this is no fucking joke. I mean, because they are playing the same songs and not missing a beat. Like that can't be easy at that age. And yet they still do it.
Yep.
So, I mean, kudos to them. Let me go ahead and do my third pick. So my third pick, like I said, all of my albums that I chose songs off of fall in the 80s. And this one is no different. This was actually their second studio album. It was Ride the Lightning, released July 27th, 1984. Now, I didn't obviously I didn't listen to it at that time, but when I did come across it, this song stuck out to me for a number of reasons. The first and foremost is it was the second studio album, and Kill 'Em All being the first. And if you haven't listened to that song or that album, great album, like, you know, Anesthesia, the bass solo by Cliff Burton, phenomenal. But all of those songs were very kind of tempo driven. They were fast. It was thrash metal. Then you get to Ride the Lightning, and the first 3 songs off that album, same way. I mean, they were your typical just thrash metal. And then we get to this song, and this for me was kind of the first ballad style song by Metallica, and that was Fade to Black. And if you know the song, I mean, it's got a very distinct intro with the guitar, and he's got those very soft, subtle lyrics. Yes, it picks up through the course of the song, but it was really their first ballad style song. And having listened to Kill 'Em All and all of the other albums, like coming across that song, it was like, what the fuck? You know, it's one of those is like totally catches you off guard because you're just used to that very thrash metal approach to the music. And so for me, that was the first one that it slowed down. It really kind of stretched Hetfield in terms of his approach to singing, because it was a more ballad-esque. And so it really just kind of grabbed me, to take nothing away from the fact that it's a great song, the guitar, the drums, all of it put together. But that was my third pick, was Fade to Black off the Ride the Lightning album, because it was the first time they really kind of slowed down, and it really just got my attention. So that is my third pick.
Yeah, that album, I was looking for the picture. That song and that album was like used in a Senate hearing, saying it was encouraging teen suicide.
Because it's an electric chair on the cover of the album?
No, because Fade to Black is about committing suicide.
No, I'm like, yeah, but the cover art's an electric chair.
Yeah.
No one commits suicide that way, in case no one's sure. I'm just saying, doesn't happen. Maybe you throw a toaster in a bathtub, but you don't do it with an electric chair. So
yeah, I think back to like an anecdote related that you just reminded me of. I think one of the things like Dave Mustaine did was like, was it him that poured a beer over like Cliff Burton's head while he was connected to the amp?
That's what you do.
You know? Yeah,
that's what you do. Yeah, those are those antics. It's like ruining a hotel room. I mean, it's all just part of what you do when you're at that level. So that was my third pick off the Ride the Lightning album. So Mac's third pick, Mac's third pick, I'll go ahead and throw it out there and we'll round him out, was also again off the self-titled Black album, and it was Nothing Else Matters. And obviously I use that here because that was another ballad-esque type song that they do. And I think it's probably one of the most notable songs that they have probably ever written in terms of their music, recognizable everywhere, but it's a great song. And it was interesting because it was one of those, when you saw the video, like for me, the video, they are like, look at one, and one, like you said, was it's them playing instruments interspliced with scenes from the movie. The Unforgiven was very much almost like a fantasy style video with the kid turning old and stuff like that. Enter Sandman was the dreamscape style. And then you get to Nothing Else Matters, and it is literally them sitting in a fucking recording studio, and all of the footage is them playing in a recording studio as they're recording. And I thought that's just an interesting way from a video standpoint. But this was Max. I'm sorry, I'm not. But that was Max, and he said that was another one where I really liked. What is this? Oh, where they use it.
Yeah.
This was in the book you were telling me about that you bought.
Yeah.
The magazine. Did you read it cover to
cover? It says a
cover?
representative for the Parents Music Resource Center holds up a copy of Metallica's Ride the Lightning at a Senate hearing in 1985. The committee accused the song Fade to Black of promoting suicide amongst teens.
Anything they can do to censor, man. Anything they can do to censor. That was the thing about the 80s, man. It was all about censorship. But yeah, that was Mac's third pick, was Nothing Else Matters. Great song.
I'm gonna roll that into, since we're in the same album. Plus, I mean, this was Grinch's topic. I think he should round us out and go last.
He's already gone. He's done.
Oh, did you do three?
Yeah, he
I'm
jumped
only
in
at
early.
one. I'm only at one.
Fuck off. He jumped in early with his third pick. And
I
totally
know
threw
he
me
did,
off.
but I know he did, but that was a setup for his honorable mentions.
I'm sorry.
Come on,
Man, I'm not firing on all
bro.
cylinders today. Clearly, I'm drinking the same thing you're drinking.
I'm
From
like,
right there,
I'm like, I
was
keep
fucking
throwing
lost.
these like at you, and it's just like, I don't know. Are you okay? Do you have a
No,
fever?
let me keep drinking. Fuck, man.
Did you not sleep at a Holiday Inn Express last night?
No, but I've reorganized the studio, and I'm all fucked up now. I don't know what's going on.
We're gonna get
What's
you
up is down. What's down is up.
I was like, have you not had enough edibles today?
Maybe. Moving on. Let's keep going.
So I mean, they won their first. I think their only Grammy or the first Grammy for the Black Album, right? The self-titled album.
I
Are you asking
that is true.
It's a question, but I think that's true.
I believe.
I remember hearing or reading. I remember when they gave their speech, they thanked Jethro Tull for not releasing an album.
That's right. Yeah, because Jethro Tull won. They won. Was it a Grammy for one? But it lost like the previous year to Jethro Tull, if I remember right.
So they think Jethro Tull for not releasing an album, so they won the Grammy. So this album, obviously, I think we can all agree that three, if not four, of the previous albums are amazing albums. A few albums after, you can cherry pick some songs, but this was the most complete album they probably ever did. Obviously, because we have multiple songs chosen off of this. Coincidentally, though, or interestingly enough, mine is Sad But True. The track is Sad But True on this album. So
Great
the other two songs,
the
other two songs for me are fast, they're heavy, they're hot, they're exhilarating. This one slows me down. The lyrics to this song just grabbed me more than the other ballads that they've done in the past or even on this album. I absolutely love this song.
It's a great one. I'm still looking for what that part you were talking about, but in 2018 the Black Album hit a historic milestone. It celebrated its 500th week on the Billboard 200 chart. In the US alone, Metallica is the highest selling album of the SoundScan era with roughly 17 million units sold. Mm-hmm. I can't figure out who the hell is buying it, Hammett admitted.
Yeah.
My theory is that people are just wearing out their CDs and buying it for all their friends.
Well, and again, it's weird because in this day and age of technology and being able to stream music, to go out and buy it. I mean, obviously I own albums, but I mean, people are clearly still doing it. And there is something about it. Like, yes, I love to queue up Spotify when I'm in my car and stuff like that. But when I'm at home, having the vinyl, when I slap it on the player, and it's like, there's just something about putting that needle on and hearing that little crackle. And then the song starts. And it's just like, I don't know. From a nostalgic standpoint, there's just something about it. It just doesn't get old. And I think that's one of the reasons I started collecting vinyl, and I will continue to do so. Yes, I can absolutely listen to it on Spotify, but there's just something about it. Putting on the headphones and just cranking it up on the record player.
No, there's something nostalgic and sexy as fuck about that. It's not really my shtick per se. I'm a little lazier than you are.
What would be weird if you took a record player to the gym and be like, excuse me, put it on.
I'm carrying speakers on each shoulder and a freaking record player and a backpack behind me, and I just go in there and set up in a corner.
That's right. I'm working out. Fuck off.
Yeah, I will say with music like this, the constant battle I have is like, I just want to listen to it louder.
Yeah.
That's why I like headphones, because but here's tune out the world.
I'm the same way, except I've gotten freaking I love Apple. I love Apple products. We've had this debate, or maybe we need to have that debate.
We do.
One of the great things about Apple products is if I reach a certain decibel listening over a certain time period, it automatically lowers how loud I can listen to shit to help protect my ears.
Fuck that.
Don't
go to concerts, dude, I'm one-handed.
I cannot be spending my golden years learning sign language. Okay,
that is going to concerts.
Well, no.
Okay, I'm just saying. I mean, you can't make the argument.
That's not happening.
Look, when you get older,
What I can do is I
put
can
your head on the player, and then
I
you'll
can
feel the
mitigate. I
vibration.
can mitigate in the interim. I can mitigate and not listen to things as loud. I struggle with it. I do, because I'm like you, Grinch. And I'm sure like you, Thor. I want to just jam the fuck out.
Mm-hmm. There's just something about it.
I mean, I'll be listening to stuff like, on the train or when we're walking or whatever. And Mrs. Haas over to me, she goes, "You got to go deaf. Like, I can hear your music 5 feet away out of your headphones. Like, you need to turn that shit down."
And you're like, so what's the problem?
Right.
There's just something about this music being played loud that's absolutely necessary.
I want to tighten up one thing I mentioned earlier.
Yes.
This is about Dave Mustaine. Indeed, as a key songwriter for much of the band's early material, Mustaine's feelings of betrayal weren't entirely misplaced. But from nearly killing original bassist Ron McGovney by pouring beer on his amplified bass, jolting McGovney across the room, to his confrontational behavior and excessive drinking, he was fired from Metallica as they sought to progress professionally.
Boom.
Mustaine has since acknowledged that his behavior wasn't ideal.
Right. I will tell you, this probably doesn't apply to either of you, and I would imagine doesn't apply to Mac, but it does to me, because like, again, I enjoy art. I am an artist, and I don't mean enjoy art from the sense that I can appreciate art. I'm saying from doing art. And this, for me as a kid, was one of the most iconic things. I would draw this on my folder, like, to get it right, the way they did their fucking logo. And it's like that logo right there. When they did Metallica, like, there was something about it. Like, I would draw it on everything. Like, I want to get this right, get the M right, get the A right, and then all the 3D letter styles. And it was like, I don't know why I did it, but it was like, I just thought it was cool as fuck.
In their early days in the 80s, they were friggin' partying and drinking, and they would be jokingly referred to as Alcoholica.
Yep.
In fact, there's a picture of Jason Newsted, I think it is, wearing a shirt that says Alcoholica in the same lettering style. That I
would like to find that. If somebody sells that, I would love to buy that. Yeah.
Here it is. See Boom. Jason wearing it.
Yep.
Nice.
Alcoholica.
And it's funny because I think a lot of people, obviously a lot of people are going to remember Cliff, but by the time I was really invested in Metallica, Cliff had passed away. So, we grew, I'm assuming, obviously, with what you said, we grew up with the Jason Newsted era of Metallica.
100%.
And it was more the looking back is what made you appreciate the Cliff Burton era, but I wasn't
only because he was obviously so fucking talented.
Yes.
One could argue he's the most talented musician in the band.
Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely.
It's funny. Every time I look at him, he kind of reminds me of Beard from Ted Lasso. Like you see the wheels turning, but he has so little emotion on his face.
Right.
Two things that are worth mentioning is can't forget their infamous tour with Guns N' Roses.
That went all to shit. And that was for the Black Album.
Well, during that tour is when they changed the pyrotechnics.
And James got burned.
So he couldn't play the guitar after that for a period of time. There was a roadie they called in and he would sing, but Axl was having these like voice ailments, and Slash,
he was being a bitch,
said when they came to terms, they were co-headlining who would go first and second. Metallica was like, we'll go first, because they run a tight ship and they stick to the plan.
They didn't want to have to wait.
Whereas Guns N' Roses is a bit of a shit show.
Right.
And so during the night of the incident, I think they're in Canada, Toronto, maybe. James can't go on. And then Axl basically, says he cuts it like an hour, saying there's technical issues in his voice, and a fucking riot ensues.
Right. There's like $1 million on it.
Yeah. There's like $1 million in damage done.
Because they said Guns N' Roses could have saved the show that night, but Axl just bitched out. And then of course they rioted.
Yeah.
This Axl's a bitch.
Thanks.
And then
he is a basic bitch.
Yeah, I fucking hate him. But the other thing worth mentioning is the Big Four.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Could you even imagine seeing Metallica, Megadeth, Anthrax, and Slayer in the same night?
No, and of course Slayer has claimed to have retired.
Their lead guitarist passed, I think.
Yeah, Henneman or something like that. Yeah, from
Yeah, because the
like a spider bite
I
or
don't know
something. Got
Slayer
an
that well.
infection. Oh yeah, Kerry
But they
King.
said that his quote was, "Would love to still find a way to do it again because the whole world needs to see this lineup while we're still alive."
Yeah,
I think it was him that said that. But they just, what an opportunity, and they only did 2 shows in the States. They didn't do Asia, they didn't do South America, but they did the Bronx, and they did, I forget, it's like Lucindo or something like that, California.
Yeah,
that's the big 4 lineup there. Photo of all them together, which is incredible.
Mm-hmm.
I actually have seen Slayer in concert. It wasn't who I want to say Biohazard or somebody opened for them. That's who I was primarily going to see. And
good band.
Slayer was the headline. I knew like nothing about the band other than their reputation.
But when you left, you were
we were at the International Ballroom in Atlanta, and they kicked off, and it was a fucking madhouse.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God. I was just like, this band's for real. Like, these fans are straight up nuts.
Yes. Yeah, I have to imagine like seeing Raining Blood live.
Yeah, it was a sight to behold. It really was.
Yeah. But that's neither here nor there, because today we're talking about Metallica. But that's okay. At the end of the day, there is definitely a nostalgic aspect to this conversation. Grinch, thank you for bringing this to the table. I know you threw it out because of the reissue of the album, and we talked about this when we covered cover songs. Interesting enough to say that was the fact that they were doing a compilation album that was all of the songs off the Black Album being covered by 53 artists, was kind of the antithesis of us doing the cover episode and should covers be done. And yeah, all week when you threw this out, all week I was thinking about this, and I was listening to music, and I was like, there is just something about, for me particularly, this band, like in those formative years, Grinch, like you said, like sitting in my room, and I had like red lights and black lights, and I did all that shit. I would turn them on, and I would put this on the CD player, and I would just listen. And it was one of those where like I could listen to every song and not get tired of it, and fall asleep to it, which may sound weird, but yeah, there's just something about this band.
No, I mean, you're right. It's a weird concept that a band like this, as hard hitting as they are, is soothing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's relaxing in its own way it leaves I think it leaves you the option of where you want to go with it.
Right.
You can just listen to Nothing Else Matters, or even the entire Black Album. And like you said, you could just lay there with your eyes closed and enjoy it. Or you can just be like, fuck yeah.
You can get in your car and drive 100 miles an hour to the same music.
Yeah. This is a compliment I wanted to make sure I worked into you during the course of this, which is, thank you for agreeing to this. Some of the I guess because I'm older, I focus on this more than I did as a kid. Because I'll use Master of Puppets as an example. Like, I didn't understand that was about addiction at the time.
Right.
Like I heard "Chop Your Breakfast on a Mirror," and I remember for a long time I was like, what does that mean? And thankfully I was a naive kid that had not been exposed to cocaine, but the emotional IQ of this band is just off the charts. Like watching the interview and Howard Stern, like Lars is super intelligent. And I know some people critique him for like not being quote unquote the best drummer. He's a performance drummer.
Right.
And he has been vital to that band. And I don't think he gets enough credit for that aspect of what he brings to the table.
It's important to mention that years ago, I befriended someone whose brother was one of these roadie type guys, but he did security work. And when he came to Nashville to do Bonnaroo, we met up and I hung out with him and all the roadie people. And they were the third shift crew. And so it was like 8, 9 in the morning, we're out in the park drinking by their hotel. And we're just hanging out, shooting the shit, smoking dope, drinking, whatever. And I'm asking them all these intriguing questions because I'm curious what that lifestyle is like. And the 2 things I remember most was they said the biggest dickhead that they ever had to work with was Prince. He was such a prima donna douchebag.
Yeah.
Right. But they said hands down, all of them. And there's probably like 8-9 people out there hanging out together. And these are like people that have been like security roadies for like 20 years, right? They all said that Lars Ulrich was the nicest dude ever. Like he would remember their names. He would remember their family members' names. Like they just said he was just like one of the coolest, nicest dudes ever.
I can say this. He may not be the most technically sound drummer, and that's me speaking hypothetically because I don't know, but I can tell you watching him perform wears me the fuck out.
Yeah.
Because he gets into it.
He is, he makes me comfortable because he's so comfortable and not in an arrogant, confident way. He just knows what he's there for. He's comfortable in his skin. He's a quality human being. I mean, we haven't mentioned this, but it's worth mentioning. You know, they're all within your hands foundation.
Right.
You know,
charitable
over
work.
$1 million in charitable donations. Like they've contributed to a number of things, like with the wildfires and just other efforts. I mean, they're just we're blessed to have a band like this in our lives. Their journey's been incredible. Like the music they've produced is just one of a kind. And like I said, their lyrics are so smart.
Yeah.
Like when you really dig into them, there's an intelligence behind all that's profound.
And 40 years speaks volumes. They weren't a flash in the pan. They weren't, overnight success, gone tomorrow, here today, gone tomorrow type of thing. I mean, 40 years to
Shit, they were
that.
trailblazers. They were trendsetters.
Absolutely.
And they've helped bring on a kind of a whole genre of music, or at least a subsect genre of music.
Yeah, and I think listening to them did open the door for me in terms of bands like, because I have an older brother, and so like he was listening to Iron Maiden, so I was already listening to Iron Maiden. But I mean, you listening to Sepultura and Biohazard and things like that, Slayer, Anthrax, and so they were kind of the start of me listening to all of that. And so that's, I think, another reason they kind of hold a special place in my heart, because of the door that they opened for me in terms of music. So. All right. Well, gentlemen, I do appreciate it as always. You guys coming in.
That's a great topic.
Yeah, I'm sorry we didn't have Mac, but this was a really good topic.
Absolutely, me too.
And the fact that this is going to fall on the heels of us just doing, in terms of us talking about nostalgia not that long ago. And so it's like, this was just another way for me to just like look at nostalgia and go, okay, well, there's a positive aspect, listening to this music and where it takes me and the things that it kind of invokes for me. And hopefully it did for you. And hopefully for all you masturbators out there that are listening, if you are into Metallica and you go listen, hopefully it does the same thing for you. So yeah, we will leave it there. Gentlemen, I appreciate it. For all you out there, please check us out, spiriteddebate.com. Go there, drop us a line. Drinks that you'd like us to try, topics you'd like us to discuss. We're always open. The door is always open. Please feel free to hit us up there. Check out our YouTube channel at A Spirited Debate. Obviously, we're always trying to drop new content there, which is always easier said than done, but I am working on it. Be patient. And you can check out our Instagram. Obviously, it's Spirited Debates. We're always trying to post content there as well. Gentlemen, thank you. Metallica, may you reign forever. I know your music will for me. Hopefully it does for you. Love you guys, and I appreciate you being here.